Dear teachers, educators, and anyone working or interested in education, welcome to the AI Perspective podcast. My name is Matt, and for the past 7 years, I've been working as educational consultant, trainer, and teacher of skill courses at Erasmus University, Rotterdam. And to be honest, I've been ignoring the topic of AI, especially in my teaching and education, for longer than I'm willing to admit. But that is no longer. Join me on this journey in our podcast, where we explore AI from different perspectives. Particularly, the theme of this podcast will be use of AI in writing. And for this, we're going to have perspectives of both teachers and students. And for this, I have two special guests today. We have Mariel Jurriens, that is a lecturer at Erasmus University, Rotterdam. And we have Yorrick Bronsgeest, that is a dual degree student of psychology and philosophy. And both, as you will see, have quite fascinating perspective when it comes to AI and AI in writing. Mariel, Yorrick, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Excited to have a good conversation.
Good. Bit nervous, but I imagine that's also good nerves. So
yeah, will be a nice experience together. Well, I want to start with more of a personal question. So before, when we met and discussed, I understood that both of you are quite active readers. You like to read books. But what is your relationship with writing? And does AI already play some role in that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's definitely already a distinction in my head that I make between creative and academic writing. Not that they have to be completely separated necessarily, but creative writing, I won't, but that's also because I won't really use it for anything rather than just myself, just a fun, I don't know, writing something like poetry, for example. And for academic writing, it is, next to that, I have to do it. It's also usually a very interesting process to actually learn something new, but then it will also go more into a relationship of, okay, I actually want to write something good and well, and where I completely have everything written down and I want to written down. While with creative writing, it's just kind of
like expression
go
of
with
yourself,
it. Yeah.
How about you, Mario?
Writing, I have an intense love-hate relationship with writing, but only a bit of hate, I must say. But no, I love to write. I think it's a mirror of a reflection. I think it's a brain train. I think it's therapy. And that's also why the touch of hate sometimes, I would not say that every time I write it's easygoing and I never had a writer's block. When it comes to AI, I have, or large language models, I have never used one. I haven't even made an account for ChatGPT or anything. And so far, I haven't been convinced to change that.
So it's not something that played any role in your writing?
No, no, never.
How about you, Yorrick?
Well, with the actual writing, perhaps more of how to rephrase or reword, or a general question, like if you write more an argumentative, am I missing something? But not in the sense, that's why I say it more in this reflective way, not in the sense of, as we already talked about before, a copy paste. That definitely not. But it can also be a bit more inspirational, academic, especially if I start writing about something that I find interesting, but I don't really have knowledge or prior knowledge about, and then not to really gain a prior knowledge, but to get a starting point for that.
So I want to zoom in, because obviously AI caused quite some disruption in education, right? I mean, that's part of the reason why we're also sitting here to discuss it. When it came and it became more bigger thing in 2022, right? When ChatGPT started, made like a big splash and everybody was starting to talk about it. Was it something that you were aware of? Is it something that you checked? Or Mariel, you mentioned that you haven't used it, but you probably heard about it, right? A lot, I assume. So what was your impression, or maybe like your reaction back then to this new tool?
I remember the first time my two colleagues of mine and good friends were talking about it. I think that's 2 years ago, I would guess. Or is it 3 years? But they were talking about it, and the first thing they did was look up themselves, what ChatGPT would say if they would ask, "Who am I?" And both times it was wrong. Both got a profession that was unrelated to what they were doing, but it was funny.
So just a random hallucination.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago. Probably it would get it right now. I would say it has evolved in precision. That's fair to say, probably. That was the first time. So interesting how if we have this tool, people feel most called to first look up themselves and see what it says.
I'm curious, Yorrick. So you have you study, you work, you already, if I understood correctly, you already finished the thesis, right? In your psychology
last year.
degree. So what role specifically AI played in your studies? Would you consider it as something that really helped you save time or be more efficient? Or how would you evaluate it as a tool for a student?
No, I definitely think it helped me. As long as I kept it reflective, because that also made me think of what you said first, is that AI is a very positive, it reinforces what you say. So the moment you ask something because that's also something that I actually did test it with then for myself, to ask a few, which maybe some people have it, but it's not scientifically backed or whatever, and then ask them, this is correct, right? It will always say yes. I have almost never had it say no. Maybe it's different now because this was a year and a half ago.
I did not even know that. So what you're telling me now is that it confirms you in a positive way. I'm not sure if that's a good thing.
No. To go from there, how it helped me was more in the open questions. So what I said more about an inspiration or a more open question of, okay, am I missing something here? Or I am stuck. How do I respond to this? How can I reframe something? Also with my thesis, but then I also have my supervisor, which was very helpful. So I think I used it for a topic inspiration. And then I'm not sure how much I even used it afterwards. Very, very little, at least. But it was more for the courses where you have a very big group, only one or two tutors, and then pairs who are either busy or aren't taking the course or whatever. And then I agree with that it takes a lot of energy to reach out to people which I'm not particularly friends or comfortable with, asking for random inspiration questions.
So can you recall maybe one or two golden ideas that you got?
Actually, I eventually wrote my thesis topic about how financial dependency on parents can moderate the relationship between academic expectations and stress levels in students. And I am not myself an economics student. I have never thought that I would be interested in something around economics.
But that idea you came up with yourself.
Yes, but the economic moderator, I think that they talked about something around scholarships, that AI, something said around that. Then I thought yes, I can actually put a financial aspect to this, but still have its psychology. But then something that I have never yet delved into. And I don't think I would have gotten that from any of my friends, particularly because none of them are economic students. So I would have gotten very much their views, which I already share.
Don't you think something else? Then something else would have happened.
No, then something else would have happened, yes.
Which would have been probably fantastic as well.
Yeah, that is very true. I don't think this is the one true thesis topic I could have had.
The only correct thesis? No, that doesn't exist, luckily.
No. But I did very much enjoy that I got a very different perspective that I wouldn't have gotten normally. But then it gave me an economic factor, and then indeed I made the topic and went from there.
And now you will become an economist?
No, unfortunately I will still become a psychologist, but at least it's a very I found that a very positive
Useful.
side to it.
That was the golden idea,
Yeah.
the economy perspective.
Yeah, to just combine something that I would have never thought about because I already have such a view of it in my head that I won't like it, that I don't even consider it as a topic.
Yeah. So in that sense, the topic that you maybe don't have much expertise or insight
Yes.
into, the AI tool can give you this perspective.
Yeah.
Whether it's correct or not, we can argue, but at least.
Yeah, it's interesting because I am worried that AI has a funneling effect.
Yeah.
So that, on Spotify, let's say, you will just get music that is confirmative to what you like. It doesn't work like, hey, let's give the other end of the spectrum as a suggestion. So, but you're saying that that's not the case, that it widened or it broadened your view.
I think, and that's also something which I think especially students are or should be very careful with, is that AI is very, very sensitive to prompts, is what I have learned. So that's also I said, the moment you ask more close questions, I feel like it tends more towards your view. Also because most opinions there will be both of online. So AI can go both ways. But to ask then, what are the views? What are the sides of this? I have gotten both the very affirmative side of what I believe, what I think is correct, but also counter arguments. I think the one problem is that, but it has developed a bit now, is that when I started that I could actually ask a more open question, I felt like still the counter arguments were less sophisticated, less detailed.
So maybe you should see it that you're interviewing AI.
I just use AI as a tool to the same way that before a lot of people, of course, search something on Google or go through other papers that are already there. But no, I've never tried to, in prompts, humanize it. Also not when I started with it, because I've always been in that sense. I mean, I think also for me, a big part is that it is wasteful, that I was very, knowingly about that. So I would have never done that thinking, okay, I'm using extra characters, which means extra energy and extra water and everything. But yeah, I do say usually as something like discussion or something. I also don't go about saying that, but if I would explain it here, I would tend towards a humanization.
I think it's built to persuade you and make you feel like it's your best friend or your family member, whatever, to do that. But I think it's very healthy to not fall into that trap. Do use it to your advantage, but it's not your friends. It's not that the people who produce that actually care that much about your well-being, I would say.
Definitely
you can call them when you're in trouble.
No, I very much agree. In that sense. No, I completely.
Yeah, but I think it slips in there sooner than you think. As I just said, I even did it 10 minutes ago now.
It's also funny because when I talk about it, generally with friends, I never use humanization language. But when I feel like a bit on the spot and I explain it a bit more formally, than I do. And I'm not sure why. I think it also feels easier to explain it like that. If you say it's a discussion partner, everyone immediately knows what you mean in a way. But yeah, no, it very much tries to that, because also what I always find interesting is that when you have... like when it says, yes, I will do this. And then it says, like, usually at the end, if you want, I can also do, and then it gives you some suggestions, like to reformulate this or to incorporate this in what was there before or something like that. Or sometimes it just offers you to start writing like an entire couple of paragraphs. And I'm like, I did not ask for this.
No.
But it does try to kind of
lure you in.
Yes.
Yes. And do you want to be lured in?
For some people can fall into it as a trap to You probably heard those stories, right? When the people build relationship with the AI model.
It's
like friendships or
bizarre.
But then I've also heard the stories of people who build relationships with objects, like cars or the famous.
So it's not that new.
The famous Eiffel Tower story, like. So I always find that thing that I definitely agree that it's become easier to do this, since of course like you now share language in a way, but it's also not completely new.
I want to jump to the topic of use of AI amongst the students, and I was curious recently, okay, how many students do use AI? And at least from my insights, talking to students, pretty much everybody I know has some experience with it. I found a survey from last year that was in the UK that they surveyed 1,000 students at the university, and they found out that 92% of students have used AI in their studies, specifically in the studies. So the highest form of use specifically there was actually connected to writing, which was generating text or correcting text or revising the text. So my question for you, I want to start with Mariel. Because you mentioned you don't have much experience using the AI yourself, but you naturally see student work, right? Mm-hmm. Do you see any difference in the last year in student outputs? And do you recognize in some way that this is maybe different or the AI has been used?
Yes. I need to try harder to convince them to do it themselves. Also, I think, I do want to mention that, I think if I was that age, I would have used it. I'm quite sure that I would have. But the difference, I feel the quality of writing is definitely going backwards because everything becomes mediocre. It's not that it produces horribly bad text, but it's like the soul is slapped out of it. So it's kind of like, it's a 6.5. There's not... If they were smart with it, they check their references if they all exist and check their details. If they did that, it's kind of like, it says nothing that is super extreme. It would be wrong, but it's boring and all the same. So it becomes generic. That is the thing. The text become more generic. While if you have a student making mistakes, that the mistakes become exceptionally charming in writing because it gives the capacity, or it shows you that they have thought themselves. The imperfections make it actually perfect. It's very cliched, but I think with writing,
Yeah, so if you feel like now the output is more polished, more generic, as you mentioned.
Generic, and in the end, not that great. I think if you do a lot of writing, you're gonna, if you do a lot of reading, you're gonna poke through the superficial tendency of the texts. So I think you notice it when the computer has done it. Yeah. It's not that good. It's fine.
You mentioned also like references. Did it ever happen? That's because
a lot. I think last time, and I thought it was hilarious. Somebody hallucinated me as a reference.
Oh wow!
So there was a Jurriens 2004, which is not. I haven't published in that year. So and also a title that was made up. Actually, it was a really good title. It was something like "Lost in Innovation and Translation." I was like, might use that. Then that would be my first time using it then. But it hallucinated me, and it made me laugh. Like, you're a student in my class. You've heard me saying that I do not use this. I'm going to check on you, and you managed to hallucinate your lecturer.
That's bizarre. You would assume the student would at least check.
I did fail them with that reason. You have hallucinated me.
Yeah. Understandable.
You see that often. Quite often. I would say that 30-40% of essays has this.
I think because we kind of talked about this before. So a question for me would be that, is this different than before AI in the sense that do you feel like a lot of more students also do this more generic kind of not special writing now? Or is it also the students who before didn't hand anything in or handed in also too late or also not great?
I do not think that... I think it's important to mention that I don't think that the whole group that uses large language models is unmotivated. I often think that students feel insecure about their own writing skills because it is a skill that you are not born as a great writer. Well, maybe some people, but most of us not. It's a skill that you do often and often. And it seems intimidating to write an academic text at first. And what if you could just push a button and there is this text that looks quite fantastic at first sight. So I think we get mesmerized by, this is so great. This is such a beautiful text. And it has all these lofty academic words in there that I could never think of myself. But it's a bit of a facade, I would say.
When you have assignments for students, do you instruct or talk to students about these potential pitfalls with use of AI?
Yes, I talk about it a lot. So I think... I don't think there are so many teachers who use an essay format because it is difficult, because it's hard to check, because it's a lot of work, and it's harder to outsource to other people to grade as well. I try. I have so many tricks up my sleeve trying to convince them that writing is very healthy for your brain. And you don't want to outsource it. I also think it is a bit of a tortoise and the hare story. So it feels like you're the tortoise when you start writing, but in the end, like what you're describing, if you have 750 words and you can only use 200 and you need to edit and etc., etc. When you have experience with writing, it doesn't take that long to write a page and a half we're talking about then. It will be faster if you're trained to write. But anyways, I try to convince them. You start with trying to touch upon their intrinsic motivation not to do it. But then I do not trust that is a foolproof method. So I have extrinsic tools of power, let's say. It sounds horrible. I for the text that they, the mandatory literature, I put in booby traps there. So I know booby traps, yes.
How does a booby trap look?
Yeah, so I've chosen text that debunks the most common answer on AI. So that a writer coined a certain concept and the text talks about that's wrong. I have purposely put those in there. So I know if they repeat, I know it when they repeat AI and the text does not say that. I do mention this so often because I think it's a bit... I never want to trick students. That's not my point as an educator. So I tell them multiple times there are booby traps in the text and I have told them where they are in the lectures. Okay. So if you have been to my 8 lectures and if you have listened an hour and a half or 8 times, then you should know them beforehand. But if you haven't listened to the lectures... And if you have used AI, then I might fail you because they also know if I find one, I give them a symbolic 3.5 and they get to do it again. And I have also mentioned... last time I had like 20% and none of them were, this was the fun thing, none of them were angry about it. They just emailed me like, oh my God, I didn't get it. When can I do it again? Well, how much time do you need? Well, I need a week. Okay. So no, they didn't even complain about the system. Yeah.
I'm curious, Yorrick, what is your perspective on this as a student? Is it similar to your experience with teachers and how teachers approach?
No. It's the first time that I heard booby traps, that someone used it like that. But I am very enthusiastic about such a way of incorporating, but also next to a bit more, because it's of course like big lectures, then also that students in there more when they come to university, more first years, smaller groups, and they're talking about basic academic things, that part of AI is not completely also ignored, but also openly talked about in a way to get their perspectives. Okay, what do you guys think of it? Do you use it? What do you use it for, and why? And I think that why is very important. Because you also already mentioned a lot of people say like time, and it's like, okay, but is it actually helpful if you have to resit your assignment, if you have to redo stuff? Like, does it save you something? And if it does in a way, then where? So very more adding to the reflection and to the learning of AI of, okay, it can be used in some ways, even if it's only some inspiration or that it just has access to a lot of information, but how then? Because I don't agree with letting it write a complete essay for you. But between completely ignore it and writing the whole essay are a lot of side steps, where I think there is a balance the balance will always shift the moment AI also changes, but at least something to be found or thought about between students and teachers, definitely in tutorials.
I think it would be good to have courses, especially in the first year, how to use this. I do know for sure that I will never be the lecturer of it. that would be horrible at that. But I'm sure I have extremely gifted colleagues who could do this. But, if you get academic skills and you have to learn how to work with Excel, I cannot do the formulas that are at the backstage of Excel either. And that we have adopted fully, I would say. Yeah. So do give a course in the first year. How do you use AI? When should you and when should you not? And how should you do it? It's just realistic.
Yeah.
It's stupid to just say it's too black and white.
Especially
I think it's either bad or good. It's contextual, and whether it's fantastic or it's all shit. I mean, both perspectives have the issue of being too extreme, I would say.
I like the perspective of sort of like including then AI skill as part of the academic skills, right? Because as you said, whether we like it or not, and we see the statistics here as well, students will use it, right?
Yeah, but also we're like, it is a skill or a tool, because you literally say that, like you need to know how to work with it to be able to do it, which is in a way not different than using SPSS for statistics. You need to know how to use it in order to do something with it. Like, you're not going to do the formulas yourself, but you're not, it cannot write a paper for you, but you also won't let it write a paper for you.
But that's I agree with you, although now that you're saying it, I'm like, but there are more ethical concerns with the technology we're talking about now than with Excel, I would say. Or do we have ethical issues with that? We cannot do the formulas ourselves anymore. I don't know. Maybe that was a loss of skill as well.
No, I very much also agree that should be part of it. I know one of the minors in the RSM department, I don't remember which one, but I just heard people saying it, that also talks about technology. They touch on briefly on AI in the second half is about AI, perhaps, and then the first is about more general technology and nature. And then also, for example, the stuff about, okay, but how do you do if AI reproduces knowledge that is there?
Information.
Information that is there, yes. And it also reproduces biases in that information or whatever, and it takes a lot of, water, energy, everything. How can we still use it in an ethical way?
Can we even? I wonder if we could, to be honest. I think all hardware and software around us has a bias and shapes our behavior. So I do not think we can overcome that. You need to find a way to use it wisely in some sense. I think it's kind of like, it's a knife. You can cook dinner with a knife or you can kill somebody, and also yourself, actually.
Well, you can't overtalk like a machine that's on the table that will just like, it doesn't listen to you when you say, can you stop? Because it will just say it's what it,
it feels like no insecurity, just like shares the
I would hate this in my job. That is me. Like if somebody would tell me, very hard to imagine that there will be a point in the future where my boss would say to me, well, if you want to know something about this, you talk to that machine. I think I would say, then I quit my job.
I think
I'm not even kidding you. I'm not going to discuss that with a machine. Does not mean that I do not think there's any use for this. I think other people would be totally fine and I can see a value in it. But for me, if I want to think about my future job, this spoils the fun for me.
So I want to jump to the topic of AI in terms of creative writing or critical writing skills. So some people argue that GenAI tools can help to improve writing skills by, for example, providing very personalized feedback or really assisting the writer in terms of like structuring or stylizing or even grammar of the text. While some other people argue that AI can, or over-relying on AI can remove this independent, original thinking or deep thinking that we need for writing, and we simply just take the output of the AI as the best way how to write something. So where would you draw the line yourself when it comes to having the AI as a tool to support effective writing versus more of a substitute for writing?
I am thinking, was there a problem before? Were there not many people who could do critical thinking or writing? Like, I would say that people could do that. So there's a weird reversal that kind of suggests like people were unable to do this. We could not learn how to write creatively and be critical. We couldn't do it. And now suddenly there's this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that can make us think critically. Well, we could already do that. And why would we need AI, and why would that enhance our critical thinking? Besides that, it's the most common answer that it will give you. So if we think about what critical or creativity means, which is a very broad question that people spend lifetimes on researching that. But if AI will give you the most common answers that were put into the machine, so people like me who hasn't given any input to it would be not included, does given the most common answer make you more critical? I doubt that. I think it makes you... How could that ever be so?
Yeah. Yorrick, what do you think?
I feel like, I started with the distinction between academic and creative writing. I don't necessarily know if it can help creative writing next to simply inspiration myself. But for critical writing, it's difficult because I don't know if it assists you in the critical writing itself rather than the critical thinking about the writing. Because especially if we do what we said about a course in how to use AI, I imagine that a big part of it is how to critically engage with that AI writing. Or at least I hope that it would include a large part of how to critically engage with that.
I think that the expectation should be different. I think it could be a tool that is efficient and could do things quicker, process information quicker than you. But I think the idea of that it will make you, that it induces critical thinking is absurd. I think it does the opposite. Is it a problem? No, it can be super useful for other stuff. But to expect that will make you think critically, no. Critical thinking happens when you train your brain, not when you outsource that.
No, and I also mean the critically thinking like about what then AI gives you, for example, in that sense. So it's not that AI takes away the critical thinking, but it just changes the way in which we critically think. And I am not sure if that's necessarily a bad thing as long as it stays true to its name of critical thinking. So never...
Who's going to decide when... Okay, so some... whatever large language model is going to be the golden standard of what is critical. Who's deciding that? Who's deciding that for me? And who's telling me, well, this is critical. This one, this not can do the critical thinking for you. How will we know? How will we measure? Who is the judge on that? I don't think there's a judge on critical thinking. I would not per se lay my faith in the hands of whoever is producing that for a commercial gain.
I'd like to give an example here. Something that I reflected myself when writing actually recently small paragraphs for a report or for a website. And I first wrote it myself, and then I thought, like, it's pretty good. Let me check with AI. So I asked ChatGPT to give me a feedback on this. Like, how can I make this better? And sort of like analyze the text and provide like some sort of like weaknesses, opportunities for improvement. And that way it helped me to sort of like reflect on, okay, yeah, maybe actually I didn't consider this. Maybe this is the part I should more clarify, which is completely not clear to me beforehand. And actually what a little bit surprised me that it then also generated, without me asking, also corrected version of the text with all those suggestions implemented. I was like, oh, that sounds actually better. And yeah, that made me a bit more actually self-conscious about my own writing skills when it comes to
but could it be that, let's say, you would have given me or whoever the two versions, that somebody would have preferred the version you did yourself? Because it's also a taste thing. I mean, based on what was it better? And I'm rooting for you now then, right?
I hope so as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed better to me maybe because of the superficial reasons we discussed before.
It became more generic.
Yeah, perhaps.
You are now more as everybody else. Congratulations.
Oh, so I belong.
Yeah,
no,
so like everybody else. Okay,
also,
good.
in the same way to say someone preferred the first one, like if someone prefers the second one, it's not saying that they don't prefer your writing skills or they prefer AI writing it, because it's still based on whatever you wrote. It's also very much like, that's why what I've engaged with it's if you don't let it write for you, but about something you've already written, for example, such as you saying you ask for general feedback, it can give you a more coherent thing. It can give you a perspective that you didn't think about, for example, and that you cannot always ask for someone who doesn't have time to go through it, for example. And in that sense, if it gives you extra perspectives, makes it a bit more coherent, that if you engage with that critically yourself, then it could provide a better overview or better coherence, as I said.
I'd like to move now to the small task that I gave you beforehand, which was to pick one of the memes about use of AI in education. So can you briefly share or describe also for our listeners what the meme is about, and share what it evoked in you, what it triggered, perhaps experience or thought or opinion. Can we start with you, Yorrick?
Yes. It's like something my grandpa asked him when to explain memes. Can you describe it? No, the text says, when you tell your students they can't use AI, but you use it every day. That's the man profoundly sweating as the picture. I use it, I think, also not necessarily to contrast it between students and teachers, but also within students themselves. What I talked about, said it briefly in our break, that what I know a lot of people who will talk negatively about AI or say certain things of use it very cautiously, but then don't really know what that entails, or they don't know what does it mean to use it cautiously, and eventually still end up using it for sometimes even more than necessarily, or they don't know how to use it. So I mean, this kind of goes into that it is such a unavoidable aspect will be. I mean, you said 92%. Feels pretty unavoidable at a point. So, okay, how then, if it's actually every day, for what tasks? Why? How? what do we do with that information or whatever you use it for? I think I kind of like that spoke to me in the meme about it.
I think it's more confirmation for where we started in the conversation that it would be very helpful to have courses how to use it institutionalized at the beginning of education. I think that is so important because what you're saying in your experience as a student and with knowing a lot of students, that's not... People don't know how to use it, so that's your observation. Yeah, that makes it very problematic. And I think that's what it's expressing, right?
Yeah, because I've had only one type of course where it was used, and then we had to use it for an introduction, and then I mean, the grading was not about the introduction. I mean, it was whole paper, but the part about AI, the grading was about the reflection we wrote about it. So what
how you
prompts,
used AI.
Yeah, so what prompts did you actually like? What was the exact prompts you wrote? How many times did you have to change it to get something you liked? Yeah. And I think you got a max of like 3 to 5 times to change it, and then you just had to paste it in, and then you could still edit within it. But then the editing had to be, for example, in red text, so it's clear what you wrote in it.
I would like to counterpose the... Well, I definitely think there should be a course about how to use it. I would like to see that combined with just technology-free classes. Yeah, give the options. Because there is a danger, now that I'm saying this, to sell it like, okay, so you will use it for every course. And then I have a problem with my teaching. And I like to believe that it is valuable to also teach how to do it without. So I think that should happen together.
So this is like a 2 modes, some courses that...
At least the 2, like there are some technology-free courses. And it is very interesting actually to play with. Like I did it I gave a lecture last Monday and I asked all the students to close their computer. And it was so weird and the atmosphere changed and their attention changed as well. So to make everybody aware of the technology and sometimes push it aside, you can make a performance art out of it, I would say. Yeah.
No, that's true. I mean, I also heard about assignments being written down in the exam hall. So you can write your whole... But then people write their assignment beforehand and they just copy paste it kind of from their memories in a sense. So you just remember everything you want to write down. But then still, you can't remember word by word. So you have to fill the gaps yourself.
Stupidity, because it's so boring, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's quicker. But imagine if you have to memorize an essay that you did not write yourself.
No,
you did not even write it yourself, and then you need to memorize it.
Efforts.
That's the thing. It's a lot of effort, and it doesn't seem like more fun than writing it yourself.
Yeah.
Or am I just very naive in that? I think
the challenge here can be also like student confidence, right? Because if I'm not confident in my own writing skills, I'll just memorize the output of somebody else.
But at that point, you still know the output of an entire essay, which then at least you learn more than if you just copy paste it. Not saying it, I don't like. I also think it's not the best alternative. But
this also makes me sad to think, because I do think a lot of students use it out of insecurity. Perhaps the biggest part. And that's sad. Like, for me as a teacher, it's usually 9 out of 10 times it's not true. It's not better if the computer does it for you. It's the opposite. So more confidence in your own voice, and that developing your specific voice is important.
So maybe that's something we have to think as educators. How can we build that confidence in students better, so they don't need to rely?
They believe they're better than AI.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Maybe that should be the title of the course. That is not used.
Like
it doesn't
skill-
use
You're better than
technology.
AI.
Yeah.
I would love to
Yeah.
give a course called
Yeah.
You're Better Than AI. I think that would actually work. And if you confirm me, that's good. Okay, what I have chosen. In front of me, there is a orangutan on an IV in the hospital. And the text above it is me in 2040 dying in my operating table because my doctor used ChatGPT to pass medical school. For me, it always hurts when you start talking about healthcare because that is a context where people can actually die.
Yeah.
But the broader point for me here is that what worries me is that we're collectively losing craft and capacity to think critically ourselves. I'm worried that we are getting more stupid by the minute because we're losing our autonomy of doing things ourselves. And then, in healthcare, that is then about life and death.
I mean, we'll be discussed it as well, but if we look at the future and we see how fast the technology progress also with GenAI, like what it can do now comparing to like just 3-4 years before, do you have any worries or concerns about writing in the future where technology can...
I'm kind of still thinking about it. If you have worries,
If I have
go
worries,
first.
I don't know. I also like to. I allow myself to sometimes fantasize about the option that it's a bubble. And this is the thing, like it's not a new thing to worry about technology. And I think already in the 60s, a lot of philosophers were writing about how machines will take over our writing and language. And then you also see maybe it doesn't happen that fast. And also, I keep thinking about books. It has been the last 100 years that has been predicted so often that physical books, printed books, will get obsolete. That we won't use that anymore, and that's just not happening.
Yeah.
So the optimistic outlook on this is that we might all be so smart that we realize that writing is very healthy for you in a lot of ways. And we might escape the domestication of AI.
Yeah.
In some way, because it's already there, but it's a very optimistic outlook.
How about you, Yorrick?
Now I'm gonna shift to the more pessimistic, because although I very agree that outlook where like we still use books, even though it has more lowering and less people do it. I think what for me the worry with it is that people won't learn how to use AI, to say it like that, before it's in a way too late. So if we don't incorporate this with courses or we don't talk about it and people will blindly rely on it, you're gonna, because like now, if they do that for your paper, for example, they see the pitfalls, they degrade, but what if it doesn't help them with every lecturer, and what if people then actually stop learning that themselves completely? So it's not even a incorporation of an AI, but a complete, like they outsource it 100%. And if AI does keep developing and becoming better and better, will there be a point where people stop noticing that in a way and then actually lose all their skills? Because I do agree that, for example, that's why I really liked actually your interpretation of the baking bread idea, is that, okay, sure, you won't do it every day of your life and for every slice of bread you eat, but you want to be able to do it. It's both a very nice process of writing and a very important aspect of our learning, knowledge sharing, whatever you want to call it.
It's like one of the like human skills we want to develop.
And I do want to add, because now it's about the loss of skills and autonomy of doing it yourself, but back to the bread. Like, let's say there was something unhealthy in the bread that is making you fat because you want to keep eating it. They put some chemical in there that will make you fat. It will give you heart disease, but you will keep buying it because it makes you addicted. I think we also need to think about just consuming. Who are you consuming from? I do not think it is a surprise that this could be a fantastic, or already is, propaganda machine. Could be a very good tool for that. I'm not saying that everybody uses it in that way. I don't think that, but it could be used in that sense. To be aware of if the bread you're consuming might be poisonous. So maybe you want to get your bread at the local bakery shop instead of from this big
Corporation
that is like the richest man on the planet and wants to get richer and richer by giving you poisonous bread that you will get addicted to.
It's a nice analogy.
I love this. I don't know how we came to the bread, but it is a good analogy.
Writing as baking bread. Mario, you had a question that you wanted to ask Yorrick.
Yes, true. I asked you if you could pick a philosopher of your liking, who's not among us anymore, I did add, and try to imagine what this philosopher would have said nowadays about the new technologies around us.
Yes. But I went for Simone de Beauvoir. And I think that also that what I would see as her stance, because it's of course a complete interpretation, and I'm sure that a lot of people will disagree with me, but is of course a big focus on freedom and bad faith, in the sense that the biggest problem with AI will not be AI itself, but how we use it. And in that sense also of, okay, so it can be, it maybe be able to help us actually to get a bit further, but if we actually copy paste, if we give it out, it also produces a lot of the biases that are already there, since it gives the most common. So if you actually already have biases in text and in representation, can also keep that structure more held up. But the freedom is very important. That okay, so you use it, and do you know about it? Do you still take responsibility for how you use it and what you use it for? Are you aware of the corporations that are behind it? Are you aware of what it's doing with your information, for example?
You think it might be jeopardizing freedom?
Yes,
that would be her starting point.
Yeah,
I think so. I have read one book from her, The Second Sex, and I remember it was a while ago that at one point she names 7 dimensions, pointers, however we want to call them, how one subject can objectify the other. So when a subject is making the other not a subject anymore, and you're taking over power, then right. So you're taking the freedom from this other human if you objectify that person instead of subjectifying that person.
Yes.
So I did think, I love your pick, you know that. I think it's very interesting to look at it through the eyes of what she would have said. Would, in a weird way, technology be objectifying us? I think it is. It's not treating us as a subject, it's objectifying us, and it might be so, I don't know all 7, but that the 7 apply for how AI is influencing us.
So my final question to wrap up is, what would be like one recommendation you would give to the listeners, or teachers, educators, of how they can support students better, or how they can create this environment where use of AI in writing is more efficient or up to a good standard? I
feel like I very much gave my advice throughout the podcast. it would be to anticipate on it, in the sense that if we see numbers of 92% don't, a hard no is very difficult if people have never learned to even work with it, or how to not work with it. It's dangerous. It's maybe even positive sides for some, to help students reflect, but also reflect critically on the use of AI, which doesn't have to be put then in a corner of this is bad. We don't look at this anymore, but also how does it stay your writing rather than someone else's or a machine's even. Yeah. I think that kind of so the course would be the concrete example, a course that incorporates AI in the academic tools.
Mariel?
Yeah. One very clear advice: make it every day absolutely absurd. And do that with metaphors, with stories. As I said, it's the Wizard of Oz, or it's this weird little black box, or it's a clown that comes out. I don't care. But we unknowingly anthropomorphize AI, and then you have a problem. So use it, have fun with it, but make it absurd.
Thank you. I think that's a nice note to end the podcast. Yorrick, Mariel, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. And for you listening or watching, you might be wondering, where can you find more episodes from this podcast series? You can do so on eur.nl/podcast or on your favorite podcast platform. And if you want to also see us, you can also find this podcast on YouTube. Also, in the comments or in the description of this podcast, you can find links for further support or tools that can be used in AI or used with AI in writing. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you also for Community for Learning of Innovation of Erasmus University for making it happen. And I'll see you in the next episode.